Hello everyone, welcome to Chess5 and today I am going to show you the Stafford Gambit. In Stafford Gambit, I am going to show you the 8 deadly traps. So let's start. So in first trap, white plays e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to f6, knight into e5, knight to c6, knight into c6 and d into c6. Guys, from here the Stafford Gambit starts. So white plays d3, black plays bishop to c5, white plays bishop to g5, pinning up the knight and also developing the bishop. So white is thinking, white is just doing pretty fine. So guys, here's your chance. Try to find the best move for black. So those who have found the right move, congratulations on finding the best move. So the best move is to play knight into e4, simply capturing the pawn and simply giving away the queen. So after bishop into d8, black plays bishop into f2 check. King to e2 is forced because knight is protecting the bishop on f2 and also covering the square on d2. So king to e2 and after bishop to g4 it's a checkmate. So guys, this was the first round. And guys, I want to put a very important note that after d into c6 you can see that black has given a one pawn, but in the exchange black has got a very huge amount of development, as black can play bishop to d6, bishop d7, queen to e7 and play long castle and play can very attackingly and very powerful and very fast. So now let's move to the second trap. Second trap, white starts with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to f6, knight into e5, knight to c6, knight into c6, and d into c6. But in this position, white plays e5, simply attacking the knight on f6. So black plays knight to e4, and now white plays d3, kicking the knight from e4 square. But here black plays bishop to c5, developing the piece. Black is showing the white the power of development. So the knight and the bishop is targeting the f2 pawn. So the most natural move looks d into e4. But after playing d into e4, it's your chance, guys. Try to find the best move for black in this position. So those who have found the right move, congratulations on finding the best and the right move. The right move is to play bishop into f2 check. Now the king is having only two squares, whether to take the bishop on f2 or else to play king to e2. If king into f2, then simply queen into d1 and black is going to win this game. And if white plays king to e2, then black plays bishop to g4 check. And here you can see, guys, the bishop is attacking the king as well as the queen. So after king into f2, black will simply play queen into d1 and it's game over. Black is going to win this game. So this was the second trap, guys. Now let's move to the third trap. So in third trap, white starts with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to f6, knight into e5, knight to c6, knight into c6, d into c6. And here white plays e5, knight to e4. And then this time at the place of playing d3, white plays d4, protecting the pawn on e5 and keeping the center very powerful, for which gives an advantage to white. Here black plays queen to h4, attacking the f2 pawn with the knight as well as the queen. So the most common move, which and also the natural move comes to mind of white is to play g3. The idea of g3 is to simply attacking the queen on h4, developing the bishop on g2 in the future, and simply castle, and white is winning the game with 1 pawn plus. But here's your chance. Try to find the best move for black in this position. So those who have found the right move in this position, congratulations. You're just great expert on sacrificing the knight and getting the rook. The right answer is to play knight into g3. Very amazing move. The knight can be captured with the h pawn as well as the f pawn. If f into g3, then queen into h1, and black is just an exchange plus and going to win this position. So after knight into g3, if white plays f into g3, then black will play queen to e4 check. The queen is attacking the king on e1 as well as the rook on h1. So after queen to e2, queen into h1, and in this position, black is going to win this game. Black is an exchange plus and very better. So this was the third trap. Let's move to the fourth trap. So in fourth trap, white starts with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to f6, knight into e5, knight to c6, knight into c6, d into c6, and here white plays knight to c3, developing the piece and also protecting the e4 pawn. So here black plays bishop to c5, simply developing the piece, and here white plays d3, protecting the pawn on e4 and also going to develop the bishop in future. And here black plays knight to g4, threatening the f2 pawn with the bishop and the knight. So something like queen e2 will not work because after bishop into f2, queen cannot take the bishop because after knight into f2, king into f2, white is just a queen down. So the best way to play here is to play bishop to e3, and here knight into e3, f into e3, bishop into e3, and black has just get the pawn back which he sacrificed, and the bishop is just very nicely placed, and white is going to have trouble as the king cannot go short castle as the bishop is covering the g1 square as well as the c1 square. The white is not going to castle. So guys, this was the fourth trap. Now let's move to the fifth trap. So the fifth trap starts with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to f6, knight into e5, knight to c6, knight into c6, d into c6, and here white plays knight to c3, bishop to c5, bishop to c4, developing, both sides are developing the piece, and here black plays knight to g4, attacking the f2 pawn, but this time white castle and defends the pawn with the rook and well as the king. So black plays queen to h4, pressurizing, giving more pressure to f2 pawn, and also black is going to checkmate the white by capturing the h2 pawn. So here white plays h3, simply stopping the, but here black plays knight into f2. There could be discover checks. If the king will move to h2, then simply knight into d1 is just game over for white. So after knight into f2, white plays queen to f3, knight into h3, double check. After knight into h3, white have to play king to h1. After playing king to h1, black will play knight to f2 check, giving double checks to king. So king g1 is forced, and then queen to h1 is checkmate. So guys, this was the fifth trap. Now let's move to the sixth trap. So the sixth trap starts with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to f6, knight into e5, knight to c6, knight into c6, d into c6, and here white plays knight to c3, bishop to c5, bishop to e2, and here black plays h5. So white is scared of that black is going to play knight to g4. So white plays h3, calm move, queen to d4, threatening a checkmate on f2, castle, and here black plays knight to g4. Very great move. So here white plays simply h into g4. And here many of you were thinking that now black is going to win simply. Very simple. So after h into g4, now white plays g3. So where is the mate? So black have to play queen to e5, followed by queen to h5 and queen to h2 or queen to h1 checkmate. But here white plays king to g2, an intermediate move. Queen to h5 is not going to work because after rook to h1, it's just game lost. After king to h1, queen into h1, rook into h1, king into h1, bishop into f2, and here black is having 2 pieces and white is having 3 pieces, and it's winning position for white. So after king to g2, find the best move for black in this position. Here is your chance. So those who have found the right move, congratulations on finding the right and the best move. Engine will not able to find also this move. So the right move is bishop into f2. Very nice and very powerful move. The idea of black is to take the pawn on g3 by the queen and simply checkmating the white king. So there are two ways to capture the bishop, with the rook and with the king. If the king into f2, then rook to h2 check, king to e3, queen into g3 check, king to d4, and here bishop to e6. And here guys, you can see black is going to win completely very easily in this position by simply doing long castle b6, because white pieces are all just blocked up because of their pawn, and black is having very open position and just completely winning position for black. So after bishop into f2, if white plays rook into f2, then now black will play queen to h5. Now there is no rook which can come to h1. So queen will obviously not able to come to h1 because after queen into h1 is just a checkmate. So white cannot hold queen when the queen will come to h2 and simply plays queen to h1, which is a checkmate. So after, for example, white plays g3, queen to h2 check. White is only having one move by playing king to f1, and now queen to h1 is just a checkmate. Now it's just completely winning position for white, black, and black just. And if at the place of playing d3, if white plays bishop to c4, making a room for the king to move to e2, now come queen to h3 check, not allowing the king to go to f1, followed by king to e2. So here king to g1 is forced, and now playing queen to h1 checkmate. So guys, this was the sixth trap. So let's now move to the seventh trap. So the seventh trap starts with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to f6, knight into e5, knight to c6, knight into c6, d into c6, and now d3. Simply protecting the e4 pawn, bishop to c5, And here white plays h3, protecting the g4 square so that the knight would not able to come to g4. So here black plays bishop into f2 check, simply sacrificing the bishop. So after a king into f2, now comes one more sacrifice, knight into e4 check. D into e4 cannot be possible because the queen is hanging on d1, so the king is only have to move. So king to e3, going for the taking the e4 knight, but here black simply castle. So still pawn cannot take because the queen is hanging on d1. So if king into e4, then rook to e8 check. And guys, in this position, Indian says that it's an equal position, but we never know because black pieces are just too active and king is in center. So practically speaking, it's completely winning for black. So guys, this was the 7th round. So now let's move to the 8th trap. So the 8th trap starts with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to f6, knight into e5, knight to c6, knight into c6, d into c6, d3, bishop to c5, bishop to e2, protecting the g4 square from the knight, and going to castle now. And here black plays h5, but still white castle. White does not mind. And here black plays knight to g4 as usual. If bishop into g4, h into g4, and it's going to be dangerous for white to hold this. As you can see, bishop is very powerful, rook is very powerful, queen is going to join, and it's just over. So white plays h3, and here black plays queen to d6. So after h into g4, h into g4, it's just a great blunder from the white side. Now simply the h2 checkmate is just hanging, and white cannot protect it. For example, white plays g3, then simply queen into g3 is a checkmate. Pawn cannot take because the pawn is pinned. So guys, this was the 8th and the final trap. So guys, if you liked my video, then please like it, share it, subscribe it, and thank you for watching.
You just walk right out the door. Don't wanna do this anymore. Now I'm lost without you.